What's up guys, Dennis here, and today I want to do a quick comparison between a Hennessy Backpacker Ultralite Asym Zip and the Warbonnet Blackbird Original. There's plenty of videos that show you how to set them up, what the features are and everything. This is strictly the differences and some considerations. This is the video that I wish had been made, so that I wish I could see it before I made this decision. So what happened was I bought this one first. This is the Hennessy hammock, and the nice thing about the Hennessy hammock is, as you can see here, it's complete. You don't get an underquilt, but if you're in warm weather, that's okay. You don't necessarily need one. You can sleep with a pad in here, and that's okay. It's doable. You can use either an inflatable pad or a closed cell foam. I think is probably a little bit better, but I tried an inflatable pad, and you can lay in there with an inflatable pad. I have this set up pretty much according to Hennessy's instructions. So I have the lashing, the figure 8 lashing here. I believe I have the right pitch. One of the things that took me a while to learn was that you want the feet of the hammock, where you put your feet, to be higher than the head, because otherwise you'll slide down toward the feet. It's not about elevating the feet so much as it is the weight of your body will slide down, and you want it to be kind of like, if you want a flat lay from your torso, you kind of want the head end to be a little bit lower. And the way you accomplish this isn't by raising the necessarily raising on the tree the feet end. It's when you put your hammock up, just put the foot end closer to that attachment point, and then give yourself some more space on the head side. But yeah, so overall, pretty much everything's here. You get the tarp. It's on the integral ridge line here. It's got all the hookups and everything. I mean, the tarp does come with these other tie-offs. You don't have to keep it attached to the ridge line, but it just makes it just seems like it really should be attached to the ridge line, just the way these adjusters work, and it's already all there. Everything's complete. So for less than $250, you can go to REI, get this full hammock system, and get in and go. That's pretty much why I chose this one. There's other brands out right now. Then you can go with a Hummingbird or Dutchware or the Warbonnet hammock. You go to their website. Their website's really complicated, so lots of options, but I'm going to talk about that too. I guess there is one other thing to consider with this hammock, is you don't get any tent stakes, and it does seem ideal to use ground points to tie this to. This is a bungee cord. It kind of stretches the bottom of the hammock out to kind of give you more room as you're getting into it. I don't think that this really does much once you're in the hammock. Same thing on that side here. It doesn't keep it from swaying at all. These are just bungee cords. The tarp, it does seem like, again, you want to go to the ground. One other configuration might be to put a hiking pole here. You could come off this and go to like a tree or something, but the ground, it seems like it's made for tent stakes. So let me talk about laying in this hammock. And when you sit down, you make sure that the zippers are all the way to the end so that they're not being pulled on. And then you reach up, and here's one major difference. This hammock, it's a lot easier to reach the zippers when you sit in. So I can just kind of lean over, grab that zipper, pull it closed. Same thing with the one up here. My son is driving the Power Wheels outside, but sorry for the noise. And you get in the hammock. Now, hammocks you lay, you should know by now, asymmetrically, so you don't flat like this. You kind of lay at an angle. The Hennessy hammock is kind of tough to get this angle. This little piece right here, this corner, should be between your shoulder and your elbow. It kind of works. So like if you can kind of shimmy around to get your shoulder around there, you're at a mostly flat-ish lay. What I found was I've never been able to really get a fully flat lay in this hammock. My head feels like it's being pulled up just a little bit. And if you look, there's no section of the hammock here where I can lay that's actually flat. So there's always like this very kind of steep kind of incline from where it bunches in up, you know, the end of the head side of the hammock, and as it comes down. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but when I just filmed that, I was actually laying backwards. I was laying with my head where my feet should have been, and my feet where my head should have been. But having been in and out of that hammock so many times, I can tell you that there's not much of a difference. I didn't really feel like that made the lay different, and it didn't make it any more or less comfortable. They do, though, recommend that you lay with the zipper further away from you, which is a little bit weird to me. I kind of feel like I want to be laying next to the zipper to be able to get in and out easy or quicker. It just seems like I want to have that zipper more accessible to be able to reach out and stuff, versus on the Hennessy, the zipper would have been on my right side over here, further away. I pitched this tent maybe 36 times over 3 days. Is it pitch? I hung this hammock many times, and tried all combinations of how tight it was, and I just, the lay doesn't change that much. I also found that this ridge line is always really pretty tight. It's pretty snug, no matter how you try and hang it. So the other thing I found was that my feet always kind of push up against something on the bottom here. I can kind of shimmy a bit and make it so that they don't really so much. So if you take a look, hope you can see that. But then that means my head up here is just, it's not, I don't think, where it should be. It's kind of resting on the bug net a little bit. Is it comfortable? Yeah. I'm making it look uncomfortable. It's really not. It's a hammock. Hammocks are comfortable. And I have, every time I come out here and lay in it, just like right now, I feel this, and I don't want to move because I'm gently swinging. It is, you know, cradling me, and I'm just kind of like, you know, after kind of fidgeting around a bit, I just kind of get into a position that's comfortable enough, and then I'm just like, all right, whatever. And now I just want to lay here. And this is what has happened over and over the 3 days that I've been testing this hammock. The other thing, this is nice, you have a little organizer thing up here on the ridgeline that you can slide back and forth. It's right in front of your face all the time, so easy to get to. And the material, I didn't mention the material, but the material, it feels very sturdy. It doesn't feel super high-tech, modern, ultra lightweight nylon type stuff. But it feels light, but a little bit rough. There's some flex in it, but not a lot. I'm primarily a side sleeper, so I've tried a few times to get a side lay on this, and it's tricky. The fabric doesn't feel as forgiving. There's not a lot of space in here. I always feel like I'm fighting against something a little bit. Could I make this work for sleeping in the woods for a night? Yeah, I definitely could. Especially after the night I had in a tent, which was my most recent trip. Very not ideal. I hope you can get a sense for how much space I have. There's not a lot of space in here. I feel very cozy in here. I don't feel closed in, but there isn't really a ton of space. This is an ultralight setup. This whole setup, I believe, is less than 2 pounds, which is a really good weight. That sure is. The tarp is small, and that's where the weight savings comes from. You have to really kind of batten it down to get coverage from the rain, which I haven't tested very thoroughly, but I can't really see how this can protect an underquilt from even the slightest rain blowing by. You have to pitch this or hang this hammock a very certain way. So depending on how loose or how tight you hang it is how high the tarp rides above the hammock. So you can see right now it's a good few inches, maybe even 10 inches, 8-10 inches above this hammock, which is a little bit high for if it was raining. The only way to get this down lower, the way this setup works, is to hang the hammock much more taut, so that it's less of a bow in the ridge line and it's more straight, and that brings the tarp down lower and kind of gives you more coverage. I feel like this is like a really good napping hammock for me, just how I imagine it. I think I could make it through a whole night, but it's not my ideal sleeping position. I'd have to get used to it, and I don't feel like I can get into many other positions easily enough without fighting. Yeah. Okay, and here is the Warbonnet Blackbird. This is the original one, not the XLC, which is yet another option that you have to consider if you're going to buy a hammock from Warbonnet. So as you can see, it's a little bit higher. It hung a little bit higher than the Hennessy. I haven't gotten in it yet. It's going to kind of fall down just a little bit as the rigging stretches and stuff. But these tie-outs, they just really seem to want to be tied off to something higher. So they just seem like they'll work way better if they're tied off to like another tree or something up higher. They're not even really long enough to tie off to the ground somewhere, unless you added some rope or something. It just doesn't work. It's a little bit handy to have that one tied off to give you a little bit extra space. This one is the shelf. So this is a left lay hammock, meaning your head goes to the left of the ridgeline when you lay down. And then this little part over here, this pocket or whatever, is they call it the shelf, but it's kind of like a little pocket. If you don't, tie this out, even if you do tie it out, it's if you put anything heavy in there, it's gonna sag down. But it's more like a pocket than a shelf, I think. But that's kind of handy, and we'll get to that. The other big thing, of course, is this is all you get. There's no tarp. So if you go this way, you have to then research tarps, figure out what kind of tarp you want, how to rig it up. Do you have to get rigging with your tarp? Like, there's a lot more to decide and learn. But let's get in the hammock and I will show you the real differences. All right, and you sit in the hammock just like the Hennessy to get into it. One thing that's different is the zippers are a little bit less forgiving. They're YKK zippers, which is a good brand, but they're this cheap metal and they don't have any pulls on them. So you're probably going to want to add a pull. And you do want to have them pretty much open so that you don't stress them when you sit in the hammock. The Hennessy is, like I said, it's a little bit more forgiving. The other thing is when you do get in, this zipper is much farther away somehow. Now, these hammocks are identical length, supposedly. This one is only 3 inches wider than the Hennessy. But as you'll see, it is cut completely different. already look at all that room I've got down there. And part of the reason is just because I'm not slid down far enough, but the other reason is just it just feels bigger. There's more material. The Hennessy hammock is more like a rectangle hung on the diagonal. This one, it seems to be a different shape. It seems to be they purposely cut this a certain way to maximize the flat lay and the space in here. And there is more space. It's actually interesting, like, I don't know why. Before, when I hung this, this wasn't flopping down on my feet as much. The ridgeline doesn't seem to be as tight as in the Hennessy. I don't know why. I guess maybe just the way it's designed. I don't really know. The material. This is the newest material that they offer, and I'll put in the description what it's called. I don't forget off the top of my head. It's I believe it's a 40 denier fabric, but it's got the ripstop, which makes it a little bit like heavier, whereas the Hennessy has a 70D fabric. But this is a different fabric. This is a hex reinforced type fabric, and it just feels a little bit softer, a little bit. It still feels as tough, but maybe a little bit stretchier, a little bit more forgiving, and I can get into other positions a lot easier. If you look at my feet, for an example, I can kind of put my feet over here, and I feel like now they're being supported on the heels of my feet. I can kind of push that fabric a little bit, and now it feels looser under my heels, and I feel like they're more being supported under my calves. And then I can even push the fabric away here. You see how it moves more. Whereas in the Hennessy, you push on this part and it just didn't move. This was just like much more tight, much more tension in the fabric there. So for example, I can get into a side leg a lot easier in this hammock. And what I found is that my head is actually a lot closer to the end of this hammock, but it's also a lot flatter. I don't feel the same, like I don't feel like it's pulling my head up like it did in the Hennessy. This just feels like it's more on the same plane as my torso. I feel less like I got something pulling me. What are you doing? I don't know what they say is the ideal place to put your body, but it seems to be more forgiving in more positions. I can kind of put my head more to the side. I can put it more to the center. Oh, this is nice. This is... You want to get in here? I think just overall the biggest difference is how much roomier this hammock feels. And again, for the stated dimensions, it's very similar to what the Hennessy is, supposedly. So I don't know how that works, but look, flip it around here. Get out of there.
I'm taking pictures of your phone.
Which one do you like better? Which one do you feel more comfortable in?
Both.
And here, so here's that shelf. You can throw a lot of stuff without it tied out. It almost feels like you're throwing things over this wall right here. But it's fine. I mean, you just kind of reach over there and grab stuff. Certainly a lot more storage than what is afforded by the Ridgeline, but I do kind of miss having something to put up here as well. So I think that's an accessory I'd be interested in adding on to this, is a little like Ridgeline organizer.
Dad, are we going down?
Are we going down? I hope not. Other minor differences, the Hennessy feels like maybe it would be a little bit more durable as a sitting hammock. So sitting this way, this Warbonnet feels like maybe you shouldn't be doing this. And I think it's because just where the tension is in the hammock, in the Hennessy it's more towards the center, whereas at this one there's more tension taken up on the sides, which makes it different to lay in. But when you're sitting like this, definitely feel like some pressure on my legs right here, and so I'd want to be kind of careful for when I'm using this hammock to sit in, that I'm not putting undue stress on this zipper and the edge of the fabric. The only other thing I can think to talk about is the suspension, but that's going to be something you're going to have to research and watch some videos about different suspension setups and see which one just kind of clicks with you and what seems like it'll work with you. All of them will work. It's just basically your preference, and some of them are a little bit lighter than others, some are a little bit easier to set up, and it's a little bit more research, but it's not that bad. So don't get intimidated when you go to the website and you see all these options about type of fabric, the model, what suspension system, what color. There's so many different colors, and then choosing a tarp. Just spend a little time on each topic. Look at the different hammocks, look at your height and the recommendations. So I should have told you at the beginning of the video, I'm 5'9" and about 185 pounds. So if you want to use that as reference for this, Warbonnet does say if you're 5'10" or over, you might consider the XLC because it'll be a little bit more comfortable. I was a little afraid when I got the Blackbird that I wouldn't be as comfortable in it and I wouldn't have as much space, but I'm glad I went with this because I'm very conscious about my pack weight. So this will be lighter and I will need a smaller tarp to cover it, so that's less weight too. And then also the underquilt when I finally get one. All considerations for weight and for your size and comfort. So look at the charts and just if in doubt, call up the company and just say, what do you recommend for me? All right, so that was a lot, I think, but I wanted to cover a lot and kind of give you a lot of information.
What, Dad?
If you have anything to add, any experiences or comments, please leave them down below. Did you just throw my tent stake in the woods? Threw it into the woods.
I didn't throw it.
Yay. How did you? Oh, you catapulted it with the bungee cord.
Yeah, I was trying to make it go in the ground.
Well, it went in the air.
Where did it go?
So leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think and your experience. Hit that like button if this was helpful for you. And if you want to see more videos with me, click the subscribe and the bell for notifications and all that. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.